Good morning. Charlie's not here, so I'll start the prayer. We meet in love, faith, harmony, and a prayer, and pass this energy through to help us create our constitutional Republican form of government on Oregon. Amen.
Yeah.
So today's going to be on juxtaposition. We got a lot of them. And so we thought after a few rounds of conversation in the chat that we'd bring some of this forth. Many of you know the difference between people and persons. There's also a difference between Supreme Court with a small s and a capital C and Supreme Court with a capital S and a capital C. Those are two different places. And a court has to claim original jurisdiction under Article 3 before it can be a court. And I know for a fact that the Portland court, the Washington, D.C. court, the Supreme Court of the United States, and the claims court in D.C. will not claim original jurisdiction. So what we're dealing with is, how do we find an Article 3 court so that we can have an Article 3 trial where a man can go up against the state and find remedy? Well, there you go with juxtaposition again. Then we're dealing with a law form of the bar attorneys, the Department of Justice, and the entire judicial system that believe in he who can be deceived, let him. Now, what the hell kind of a justice system is that? That's just totally retarded.
Sounds
But
like just us, right?
Sounds like what?
Just us system, meaning them.
Yes. If you're hip to it and you can deceive somebody and not get caught at it, it's totally legit in their circles. That's why we got to get out of their jurisdiction and into our jurisdiction. But they've been dealing with us as inferior beings for so long that they have come to believe their own hype. They think that they're really in charge. Well, they're not. All power is inherent into the people, but only if you take it, demand it, and use the authority. Otherwise, they'll take it away from you. And one of the things we're trying to do on Oregon, and I wish the other states the best of luck in doing it themselves, is to bring the entire system to the point where all of the de facto, and that's a good one. Looking up some of these things is kind of important. And I thought I would look up a couple of them this morning. I'm totally prepared with my Black's dictionary here, law dictionary. Henry won't use it. That's the dictionary of the enemy. And I like to use the enemy's dictionary so I know what they're thinking because I'm using their book. And he doesn't. He uses another one. Sharon does too. Johnson's and Bouvier.
But doesn't it matter which version we're using too? I mean, I hear people go, oh, the 6th edition, the 5th edition, right? What does that mean?
Well, they manipulate the language every time they publish a new dictionary. They manipulate one word or two or however many they decide so that they can metamorphose a word from meaning what you think it means into meaning what they want it to mean. And then they can point to their dictionary and say, Black's, whatever edition, page 33, and there it is. And if you can't rebut it, that stands.
Right. So if they say a word in court, you have to actually ask them which edition of their dictionary that they're using so that you can actually understand what they're saying that moment.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's part of the deal, isn't it?
yeah, kind of tricky.
Yes, they are very tricky. Uh, let me see here. Oh, Sharon dropped a dictionary of the English language, Johnson's dictionary. Ask them to define a word and not what dictionary they are using. There you go. There's an answer.
Yeah, there we go.
Yep,
They might get tripped up on their own words.
could be. Of course, he who can't be deceived, let him. Here it is, de facto. In fact, indeed, actual. So when you're talking about the de facto court system or the de facto governance, you're talking about the in fact, indeed, actual. First meaning. This phrase is used to characterize an officer, a government, a past action, or a state of affairs, which must be accepted for all practical purposes, but is illegal or illegitimate. So that's who the de facto is. Interesting, don't you think?
Sounds like
Juxtaposition words. I like the last part. Illegal and illegitimate.
more like a bastard.
Okay, well, a royal bastard was known as Mr.
Interesting.
Yes. Okay. IJKL. I know how to use the alphabet. Okay. De jure. Descriptive of a condition in which there has been total compliance with all requirements of law. Oh, okay. So we're in de jure and they're in de facto. And that's the way it is. But we're having a hard time getting the militia to understand the difference between the two jurisdictions. There's a general in the militia that thinks he's a United States citizen and an Oregonian at the same time. Now, that's difficult, as you can't have dual nationality. You can be an Oregonian, a man or a woman on the land, a free being, or you can be something else. You can be a registered or unregistered foreign agent. You can be an immigrant. You can be a state national. You can be a state citizen. But you can't be a U.S. citizen. United States is the District of Columbia, the 10-mile square that Virginia took half back and is only part of a square now, the part that was in Maryland. That's the United States. That's what the president is president of, the United States. The United States is a construct of the several states. But we have militia people that wonder why they get arrested by the de facto when they're actually U.S. citizens and don't know any better and don't want to learn because it's difficult to learn all that legal stuff and lawful stuff and actually read a book and comprehend what it says. So I understand there's 42 men in jail now in California. Most of them are oath keepers, from what I understand. Oath keepers are probably good men that are being deceived by an organization run by a guy named Stuart Rhodes, a bar attorney out of Las Vegas, who is a liar and a cheat, and I testify to that. Uh, Mainly, the reason that I think they're in jail is because they don't have the proper jurisdiction status claimed so that they can prove who they really are. Therefore, the de facto can make a decision on who they are, and they can't rebut it because they're too ignorant. So then they have to take their lumps in the de facto court. Let's see. Uh, De facto, because they're all corporations. That's right. If you have a social security number, then you're considered a U.S. citizen. Yeah, that could be, but you have to look at it this way. If you have a contract with Social Security, now I got my Social Security card when I was 13 years old. Lawfully, legally, legitimately, in any way you want to put it, a 13-year-old kid cannot enter into a contract, much less enter into a contract with the Social Security Division of the who knows who and where. I got a 14-page email today from Ed Johnson explaining everything under the sun, and the Social Security number now comes from the United Nations. Hell, there wasn't even a United Nations running when they started putting out Social Security numbers. And if you worked for the railroads, you didn't have to get one anyhow. But in any case, Social Security is insurance. That's what it is. So if you pay into it, however legitimately or illegitimately it is, and then you collect from it, you're exercising your beneficiary powers to a contract that gathered money from you and then is paying it back to you. The military is the same way. A person goes into the military, they're a U.S. citizen. Many of them become institutionalized. They become so gung ho Marine or whatever it is that they're totally U.S. citizens. They don't comprehend that the United States is actually against Americans on the land. We're foreign nationals to them. We're the enemy. They wrote it down, they put it in their paperwork. So a retired Marine is a U.S. citizen. He thinks, and he is, unless he says, no, 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 I'm a retired Marine. I used to be a U.S. citizen because I was in the Army or in the Marine Corps. I'm not any longer. I'm gaining the benefit of my service by having a retirement paid to me, and I have benefit of the VA Medical Center. But all those are benefits. They are not part of making me a U.S. citizen. But most retired military don't comprehend that. We have a guy named Conan in our grand jury that is a retired, I think he said 38 years in the Army. Maybe it was 28. Anyhow, he's one of us, so he comprehends the difference between U.S. citizen and Oregonian, a free man or woman. I used to think I was an Oregon State National. Then a friend of mine made me read what a national was. A national gives jurisdiction to the nation that they're a national under. And I don't give jurisdiction to anybody. I'm me. I'm equal to William. I'm equal to Henry. But nobody is superior to any of us because we're all free men. So therefore, I can't be a national. I can't be a citizen either. I can be a man on the land. Interesting. I used to think those guys were nuts when they would get up in court and say things like that, and then they'd get beat up and put in jail. We've been having a little trouble lately with people that do not comprehend the difference between what we're doing with our grand jury and what Terry Tressel did with the grand jury he was on in Florida. Tressel was a member of a de facto jury, de facto grand jury on Florida. He was a U.S. citizen in the de facto, trying to be an American in the de jure with none of his paperwork properly in order. And they beat him up. They put him in jail. They tried and convicted him, put him in prison where he died. That's not what we're doing on Oregon with our grand jury. Everybody in our grand jury has signed a status statement saying that they're an Oregonian, not a U.S. citizen. And they found two men or women that were also Oregonians and not U.S. citizens to sign as witness. So every one of our grand jury members has supplied us with living testimony in the form of an affidavit of truth that they are an American, an Oregonian on the land and not a U.S. citizen. That's about as strong a document as you can get, as juxtaposed to an affidavit. An affidavit is a document in the de facto. That's one of their corporate documents. Persons make affidavits, corporation affidavits. Living men testify. And when you look it up in Blacks, whichever edition you use, you read the difference between a declaration, an affidavit, and testimony. Men and women can testify. You have to be alive to testify.
So if yesterday I thought that I was a United States citizen and I signed some form stating that I was, but today I realized that I wasn't, and I fill out an affidavit of truth today that I was an Oregonian instead of a U.S. citizen, that would change it, correct?
No, an affidavit of truth is a de facto document. What you have to do is, see, there it is. Caught even you and you know. Yes.
Exactly. Right.
The wordplay, it's just huge. We have a member in our group, strong lady. I like her. She's tough to get along with, but so am I. And she's coming into all of this knowledge that she says something or she writes it. She writes it and drops it into the chat. And then you say, that's not correct. That's wrong. And then she goes, bingo, with a minor explosion. And you say, yeah, but it's still wrong. And you have to read this to understand. And then she says, yeah, but that says, and she just like in the de facto. If you read the first sentence and stop, you never get to the third sentence where it says illegal and illegitimate. But if you can't be deceived, let them.
They've made quite a tangled web for us to get through, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Uh, they did a whole big thing in law. They changed the names of the federal district courts of the United States. Now, I'm going to get this wrong because I'm not memorized and I'm not reading it, but the point will get through. The the federal district courts of the United States changed their name to the United States federal district courts. But when they did that, they left the authority for being an Article 3 court back with the federal district courts of the United States, and they only brought the admiralty part of their jurisdiction with them to the United States federal district court. Now, that was discovered and used in Mookini, Mookini 301, I believe it is. Uh, that decision made them write down exactly what they did. And it doesn't say this in Mookini, but it comes close to saying it. And if you read it, you comprehend this. If the court's name begins with the United States, it's not an Article 3 court. It's bogus. It's a lie. But he who can be deceived, let him. We don't deal that way. So, what we would like to do is get the point across to everybody that happens to listen to this, and it's nothing new, but maybe it'll get through to you. If you think you're a United States citizen, you are. But if you think you're a free man or a free woman, you can't be a United States citizen. They are incompatible. Now, if you're a free man or a free woman, you can change your jurisdiction. You can expatriate to the other. I expatriated from being an Oregonian, a free man. I signed up to be a U.S. citizen when I signed my voter's registration so that I could make out the paperwork in the de facto side to recall Sheriff Pat Garrett. And I did all of it all the way through. State Department of Oregon, everything. Did all the paperwork exactly right, got it all done, filed, served to everybody. And then I said, there's no way in hell that Ron on Oregon can go out here and get 37,000 signatures to recall Pat Garrett. But everybody knew I wanted to. And so then I changed my jurisdiction back to an Oregonian from that of a U.S. citizen. I can step back and forth. I can go be a private attorney general in their court if I want to be. And I do. I have done it. I don't do it anymore because I'm working over here in the de jure as a free man on Oregon. And we're striving to return Oregon to a constitutional Republican form of government. I've been
Seems
talking.
like seems pretty risky to step over on the other side, right? You're kind of gambling because if you step over the other side at the wrong time, they could just kind of like grab you up and take you into their stuff, right?
Yes, they could. Yes, they could. And I think they do that. I think that's what they've done to the 42 guys down in California.
Oh yeah.
They 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 caught them and they didn't have their paperwork. Now, see, here on Oregon, we have written up and we're ready to go with a writ of habeas corpus for any Oregonian. So we can go to their jailer and say, you have one of us in your jail, and you can't lawfully do that. And here's a writ of habeas corpus from our court,
Yep.
and retrieve our man or our woman from their jurisdiction.
As long as they are not claiming to be United States citizens, correct?
Yeah, correct. Of course, now if a little old man like me goes down to the jailer at the Inverness jail and says, "Here's a writ of habeas corpus from our court, give me Fred." And the jailer looks at you, come on, you're not getting Fred, But
Mm-hmm.
now, if a little old man like me went down there and I've got 50 armed militiamen standing behind me, and then I give them the piece of paper that's lawful and they
Yeah.
should follow, they may do it, especially if every one of those militiamen is authorized to be a Second Amendment, well regulated militiaman like we did.
Standing on the right district.
Yes, under the correct jurisdiction,
Yep.
and knowing they're one of the people and not a person in the
Well, it looks like we're
jailer.
out of time here, Ron.
I'm sorry.
Me too.
I took the whole thing and just blabbed away. Well, I'm an old man talking head for the Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly. We have a website at orsja.org. We're on YouTube under Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly, and we're on Skype. And we want everybody that's a free man or free woman on Oregon to contact us so we can get your jurisdiction correct and your status correct, and you can be what you actually think you are and not be one of those that's being deceived.
If you're out of state, contact us and we'll tell you how to do this in your state.
Yes.
They do not want to let go of this. They do not intend on losing here. And we do not intend giving it back to them.
And then the bullets started flying. And then he jumps out of the car. And he's got both his hands up.
And he got out of the car, and he had his hands in the air. He's like, just shoot me then. This is what you want, just shoot me. And they did. They shot him dead. With his hands in the air, and I saw it. I swear to God. He was just walking with his hands in the air. And they shot him. And they shot him dead, and then after he was down on the ground, they shot him 3 more times.